Okay, guys, so today we have Norm Lavertue on. He's my dad and also the sponsor of the podcast. Today we kind of just go over how hunting has changed from when he started to now, gear, the whole 9 yards, and kind of just shoot the shit. And, he tells stories of this past year and then years prior. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. This is White Oak Creek Outdoors, a podcast for everyone with a passion for the outdoors. Okay, White Oak Creek Outdoors podcast, episode 5. We got a special guest here, the man, the myth, the legend, Norman Lavertue.
Stormin' Norman.
What's happening?
Not too much, guys. Good to be here.
So, we're going to get into some hunting stories later in this episode, but we'll start off with why and how you got into hunting eons ago and kind of how it was eons ago.
All right. Actually, I don't know. My uncle always hunted, and my dad and brothers didn't hunt at all, so I loved being in the woods and seeing him getting deer every year, so I just started and have loved it ever since.
How old were you when you shot your first deer?
16. Jesus. First year I actually hunted, yeah.
By yourself? Or were you with somebody?
No, by myself, yeah. And what was it, 9 years before I shot my second one.
Holy
smokes.
It's a dry spell.
Yeah.
What were you using?
Well, it's funny because the day it happened, that season I'd been using a 30-30, and my uncle had a 300 Savage, and the safety is different. On the 30-30 you cock it, and with the 300 Savage, it's on the side and you push it. Well, it was funny because a deer came down the stone wall, stopped 10 feet in front of me, broadside. I'm not kidding. Last day I could hunt, probably wasn't the last day of the season, but last day I could hunt, and he just stopped, and I'm 16 years old saying, holy mackerel, so I pulled the gun up and went to cock it, because that was the first drive that I had the 300 Savage. So I took the gun down and looked, and he stayed there, and I pushed the safety off, brought it back up, shot him in the neck, boom, that was it.
Was it a buck?
Button buck.
Wow.
Yeah, 85 big pounds.
I can't catch
That's actually pretty big for a button buck.
Yeah, it's not bad.
85 pounds?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
But, the hooting and hollering I did, they thought I'd shot someone.
What were the rules back then from now? How different are they for hunting?
The rules?
Yeah, laws and stuff.
Well, actually, at that time, you could shoot does.
Whatever.
The whole season,
the
right?
whole season.
Wow.
Yeah, you're looking at...
That's how it was, though, when I first started.
It was?
When I was 12 to, I think, 16. I think it was my first year going by myself. You couldn't shoot does anymore. Well, you could, the first 2 days,
Right.
but it wasn't all year.
Right. Well,
Wow.
you're talking over 40... 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And where were you hunting at? Where is it? Here in New Hampshire?
Yeah, so I did most of my hunting in Wolfboro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which, I hunted for years there. And, once you get to know the woods, but we hunted different than we do today. We drove deer.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. The way you hunt now is so much different than what you did before.
Oh, absolutely. But it's all I knew. It's it's basically how the people that I hunted with, their generation hunted that way. And
So what, it was big deer drives?
yeah, I think it was the max you could have was 6 guys.
Yep.
And we'd always 4 guys through the woods, 2 guys standing. You get to know where their escape routes are, and that's the way we hunt it.
Right.
You know, and the way it is today, it's a lot different where you're looking for different things, where they feed, you know, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think people still do deer drives.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more
Oh, yeah.
of a like camaraderie thing.
Yeah.
Everyone gets together. The way that you and me hunt now, we still do a little bit of that. You know, you and me together, but we kind of do our separate things, and it's more of a soul thing now.
I wonder if it had anything to do with like the market, like the marketing aspect of hunting. It's like, all right, you know, instead of deer driving, let's start selling, you know, the camo and then the stands and all that stuff to kind of like grow that. Because what changed? You know, is
Yeah.
like obviously public land is kind of hard to do that because you have a bunch of people on there, but private land.
Yeah, well, I think you may have a point, because think of the scents.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and then the scent free, and I mean, you think about it. Oh, you know, my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he'd walk through the woods. He'd be smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
But I'll tell you what, the guy always saw a deer. The guy, you know, it was just but if you went out there alone, you
can't
couldn't
do
hunt
it.
that way.
Yeah, you just can't do it.
You
that
know,
way.
because the difference is, we were going to the deer hoping we get them to go where we wanted.
Right.
You know, the way we hunt in a tree stand or a blind or whatever, you want them to come to you.
Right.
What do you
You
prefer, blind or stand?
I prefer a blind, only because I'm not big on the heights.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
see,
you
I'm
know.
thinking of blind this year, guys. I think I'm doing a blind.
Get a big one.
Well, I'm like 10 feet shorter than you, so
I have one you can use. It's a nice Cabela's one.
Let's do it.
If you know, the whole thing about that I found is, if you brush them in, but you've got to do it like during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to get in there 2 weeks prior to. I mean, it's just they're gonna find a different.
It also depends
place.
where you put them too, because you don't want to put it where you can only see 10 feet in front of you.
Right.
You want to put them on, you know, ridges or the edges of fields or cuts or
Yeah.
something that you can see a ways, because that's the advantage of a tree stand. Is
Yeah.
I can put a tree stand in the thickest spot ever, and I can see them coming from 30 yards away at least.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. Where a tree blind, they just kind of walk up on you.
Yeah, and like you can't see anything.
Yeah.
You know, and you also can't get them into those thick spots. You got to put them on the edge of
Right.
those thick spots, because those blinds are huge.
Yeah, they are.
Especially ones that, like Chris, you would have to use.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that one I used last year that I put up. I mean, I bought the chair that swivels, and I mean,
Yeah.
you know, half the time you feel like taking a nap in it. But
Yeah, the chair's actually really nice.
yeah.
So, what is your most memorable deer drive?
Oh, shoot. Boy, you would put me on the spot there, wouldn't you?
Dogs are whining in the
Did you,
background.
did you do deer drive? So you hunted like New York as well?
I went to New York with my brother-in-law and a couple other guys, and you know, with Bo. So we hunted tree stands and hunted, you know, cornfields.
Yeah.
You know, after they processed it, but it was amazing. I mean, come dusk, they would come out of the woods like ants. You know, the deer would. There's a lot of deer there. They're a little bit smaller, but shoot, there'd be 40 deer out there.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a big field. So, and with a bow, you've got to have them, you know, in the right range.
Right.
I mean, I shot 5 in the years that we went out, but I missed a good 4 pointers down below me. I don't know what I did. I think I got buck fever or whatever. Shot right over his head, and bloop bloop, off he goes. And
So who'd you go with in New York with? You said your cousin?
my brother-in-law.
Your brother-in-law?
Yeah, and then a couple of friends. I think there was, what, four or five of us. Get a hotel, shoot, 3 or 4 days. You know, and the thing of it there was you had to process them, probably do now, anything out of state anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Process it, can't bring the,
Bones.
yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah,
You're talking about Randy?
yeah,
Yeah, he's a big buck killer too.
Yeah.
He's gotten some good ones.
yeah, he's gotten, I don't know how many, but I know he's got some over 200.
When was the last time you did a deer drive?
Geez, I haven't done a deer drive in probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So that 10-year mark, is that the year that I guided you to getting your biggest buck ever?
Probably not.
Which, yeah, that what, the one down behind?
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that deer the day before.
This is a good story.
Yeah, I went out, knew where I wanted to go, and I was walking down through, and I saw a doe coming through, so I stopped. She stopped, and I heard the buck grunting. First time I ever heard it in the woods, which was pretty cool. But he stayed in the beaches, and they were just little beaches, so, I could see his antlers and whatever. And the doe started pounding. And I said, oh, this is not good. So I shot muzzleloader, and he went right down in front of me and stopped like they usually do. And, I'm like, oh, I'll never reload fast enough. So he just went on his merry way. So the next day I went to the exact same place, sat on a rock. It was almost dark, and I could hear something out there. I thought it was a moose. It was something slamming on the trees. And I'm like, man. So I said, just stay here. That thing came through the woods in the dusk, and all I could see were the antlers coming straight to me. And I said, I almost pulled the trigger straight on, and I said, don't do it. And he turned broadside, so I shot. He took 2 or 3 leaps and stopped, and again, muzzleloader. And I said, I'll wrap this gun around a tree. I missed him again. And then he started, the old, and he just lay down and died. So,
Holy smokes.
yeah, it's the first real big one that I'd shot, so,
It's a good one. What was it, 190 something?
193, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the issue with that, I got him out, it took me a while to get him out of the woods, so I couldn't tag him until the next day.
Oh,
So he lost weight.
yeah.
So I would have been right there on the 200 pound
Yeah.
mark. But anyway, it was a beautiful
But
day.
that's cool though. How many times would a deer do that? Like a mature deer like that?
Yeah,
He gets shot at the day before and then comes to the exact same spot
right.
the very next day. That does not happen very often.
No, I'm telling you, it was within 20 feet
Yeah.
of where it was crazy.
And you never hunted that area until I told you I saw that deer. Correct?
Shoot. Probably because we didn't.
That's correct.
We
folks.
didn't.
He's gonna beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Clearly
Yeah.
someone has a little pride issue.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. But we could get into the ones I showed you too.
So, when was the last time you did a bear hunt? Or do you plan on doing another bear hunt?
I never bear hunted, be honest with you.
No?
I've shot a bear, but I shot a bear with a muzzleloader. Go ahead.
I like that.
How big was it?
You're not very big. But I was deer hunting, and I saw a bear come down through, and I said, oh boy, and I knew it was little, but I'd never shot a bear. So I said, should I or shouldn't I? And I wasn't going to, but he walked up onto a little stone pile and stood up. And I said, all right, let's just do this. So I did it, rolled him over, and yeah, he's a pretty small bear, but I had him full body mount.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, standing up, which was pretty cool. But
It looks really good.
yeah.
The thing, what, like 30 pounds maybe?
Oh, it's more than that. Holy man.
Is it though? Maybe 40.
60.
That's awesome.
What are you pointing at me for?
Oh, I thought you were going to go.
I'm good.
Oh, all right.
I'm just here along for the ride, man.
So what was your plan for this year, for this hunt, this upcoming year?
This
'Cause,
year-
apparently you always just walk in the woods and like you tie your shoe and there's a deer, is what it seems like. for you.
That is.
It's funny thing, because I've done that 3 or 4 times with good bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I walk out behind my house, and next thing you know, it's standing in front of me. And I've done 3 or 4 of those. And, but this year, I think that, the one down behind the house on the trail? The one that, where you and I both saw last year, and I shot, and,
Yes.
it came in behind me. I've had that A-buck every year since I've lived there, 20 years. every year there's a buck on that scrape line. I'd love to get one off of that line.
Yeah.
That'd be my goal.
Are you gonna try to go for a bow or are you gonna do rifle?
I'm gonna do a bow this spring and, this spring I'll start shooting, but yeah, this year I'm gonna do a bow.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I haven't shot a doe in, oh gosh, it's been a long time, but
Man, those are some hard problems.
yeah, I may shoot one, it depends.
You attempted to shoot one the day that I shot my biggest. Remember that?
Yes,
You ended up missing it, and we were like, oh, we'll just hunt here anyways. And,
right, yeah, that was a weird day.
well, not only the day, that whole year was the weirdest year I've ever hunted. We hunt this field that's in the middle of nowhere, and this is the first year that we had ever really hunted this field, and it was just like deer galore. Like every deer in the woods went to this field every day.
Yep.
And I think maybe 15 deer was the most we saw in one night.
Yeah.
And just all in the middle of the field. Never any bucks in the middle of the field. They probably skirted the edges.
Sure.
I'm sure they did, but it was just, I don't know what it was about that day, but he missed that doe, and I've told this story, but he missed the doe, it ran out, and all those does just came right back in, like nothing ever happened, and that monster just came out, and I don't know, and that was really cool because he was making a scrape, thrashing his antlers.
Yeah.
He put on a show before I was able to, shoot him.
That's pretty cool.
And I don't know, was it like 2 weeks later that Sid had that opportunity at that big spike too?
Yeah, with that spike, and that was a shame. I mean, I probably,
was so close.
I probably screwed that up, being more excited than she was with trying to navigate her through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, deer they'll pick up on.
They have a fifth sense.
Yeah, almost like your emotions, if your anxiety, and they kind of know.
Well, I imagine because if you're anxious, you start sweating.
Right.
Obviously, that's the smell of you.
Yeah.
You probably put off a pheromone once you start getting buck fever, and it's just if you even those hunting shows, you watch big bucks come in and the guy's getting all excited, and that big buck just right up to the tree, right where you're sitting.
Yeah.
Right.
Why no reason for you to look up there. The guy's not moving nothing. There's got to be something to that.
I agree. I think so as well. Yeah, for sure. Like the one that I missed a few years back, I remember he looked up and I was like, oh man. There was no, I was like 20 yards, 21 feet up in the air, whatever. And freaking, he looked up at me. I was like, stood up. I started standing up very slowly. I'm like, I'm going to send it.
Was that with a bow?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
I mean, I'm garbage with a bow. And even then I was garbage with a bow. And my limit was probably 35, 40 yards. And things at 50 yards. And I was like, let's send it.
Right.
And I missed
Give it a shot.
Yep, exactly.
Right over.
Right over. I was like,
Did he take right off?
oh yeah. He was like, nope, I'm gone.
Really?
Yeah. Because he was just walking my way, and then he just stopped and started looked up. I was like, oh.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Was that up at the?
Yep, that was up at the top.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the bows that old school guys used to use back in the day were something else. I still have the one upstairs that you used to use.
The Hoyt?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you ought to see the one that I actually shot the deer in New York with. It was a wooden bow. It was a compound, but it was wood. It was actually my father's bow.
Really?
Yeah. I don't even think he ever shot it, to my knowledge. But,
Interesting. Where's that? You don't know?
well, I think over the years it delaminated.
Oh, okay.
And so it's
just garbage.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
gone. Yeah. But
Interesting. Yeah, that bow that I have upstairs is something else. It looks like, the cams on a kid's bow?
Yeah.
The old school.
Right.
It's got those, but the thing's 65 pound, draw weight with these aluminum arrows and the old school 3-pin.
Yeah, but you got to think about the evolution, because
It's
at that
insane.
point, I mean, I can remember buying that bow and being like, "Oh my God, this is the cat's meow. I mean,
Yeah.
this is
Right.
top of the line," But today
Yeah.
it's It's
That
not
market,
Well,
well,
it's-
technology too.
Yeah, exactly. And even when I bought my first bow, which you have now,
right.
the Hoyt Charger, that was a decent bow when I bought
Yeah.
it. And to where the bows are now with the new Hoyts and the Primes, and it's crazy even just within 6-7 years the
Right.
technology that's changed.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a good way. Like, how has everything evolved? Like the equipment you use, the guns, bows, gear. How has that changed over time?
In the bow field, it's huge, year to year to year. I mean, they come out with stuff that's new, the stuff that you can actually put on your bow, the accessories.
Yeah.
They didn't have them before. But as far as the guns, I've been using the same gun for 35 years,
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the beauty. A lot of people are like that. You get used to a gun and you shoot a deer or two with it. Next thing you know, that's why you're carrying it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey, we all have, that mentality. Oh, this is the gun that
If
I
it
got
ain't broke,
3
don't fix
notches
it.
on it.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because that's funny. Like my friend Rusty, his dad always used to hunt with just a Winchester 30-30, and then one year he bought a new deer rifle, and he's had bad luck ever since. So
Really?
yeah, and it's like a fucking $800 rifle that he splurged on. And the
Throw it
next
in the
thing,
trash.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally, he's like, I will never touch that thing again. I fucking hate it.
Sell it.
He needs to go back to the other
Yep,
one, right?
yep.
Yeah, right.
So it's funny.
Yeah, you have a nice 300 Savage. Is that the one
Yeah.
that you were talking about back in the day too? Is that the same gun?
Yeah, that's actually the gun I shot my first deer with. My uncle gave it to me because of that. So, yeah, and that gun has actually shot a ton of deer because the guy that he learned to hunt from, must have been in the 60s, was that guy had shot a lot of deer with it.
Yeah.
So, it's
Okay.
been passed down through.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that gun is in really good shape for, being brought through the woods that many years.
Oh, yeah, and it's been hunted with, and that's the thing, it doesn't just sit there like it does now, because I don't really use it. I use the 270. But,
Yeah. Which I gave back to you. That was my gun, but
Those 300 Savages they are good guns. I know. Again, my friend Rusty, they collect them.
oh really?
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
they love finding them and trying to collect them.
No kidding.
just 300 Savages, or
The 300 Savage, the lever action.
Yeah.
I think
It's got the
they're-
brass guts in it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They collect them when they can.
Wow.
I think they're ugly as sin, but that's just me.
really?
Yeah, I think it's an ugly gun.
Yeah.
Really?
It is a different looking gun.
It is.
Right.
It
No
is.
doubt
I
about
think
it.
that's why I like his. Is it's different,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I'm just so used to a Henry or a Winchester I mean, that's just the typical lever
Yeah.
action. Then you got this fucking
Right.
redhead stepchild Savage over there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. I think they're
Yeah.
weird looking.
That 270 that you use and have used is an amazing gun.
Oh, that's a smoothest shooting gun. It's really a nice gun. I've shot a lot of deer with that one.
Yeah.
I prefer to. I say that if I were to carry a rifle, that's a gun that I'd want. But my real love is muzzleloader.
Yeah.
I'd much rather hunt with a muzzleloader than a rifle.
Why is that? I still don't understand the muzzle loader.
I like it because, growing up and all, as soon as rifle season comes, people are in the woods, and you get a lot of people in the woods that, back then that, they're just, you never knew what was coming your way.
Yeah.
And they're carrying weapons that are, you get 5-6 shots off, and with a muzzleloader you got one. There's not many people in the woods, and it always felt more like hunting to me than, having a bunch of people around.
So probably the same way some people like archery. Just
Yeah,
the challenge is there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
do you think that they switched to not being able to shoot does all year for a safety reason? I was thinking about this the other day. A lot of people brown us down, right?
Yep.
With a bow or whatever. You go out there with a gun, Joe Schmo that hunts, here and there, sees brown, and he's just firing in the bushes,
Mm.
I mean, I probably had a reason to play.
I
with
know
this
they
too.
did it because the deer ratio wasn't there, but in the back of my head, I almost think that maybe that had a safety issue as well, because now you have to look for its head. You have to.
Right.
Well,
I guess you don't have to, but
I think the
normal, safe people are going to do that.
right. I think the safety thing, though, like every year is only a handful of like incidents that happen.
Yeah.
Now they're in rifle season, right? Because you have the Joe Schmoes
Right.
that go out there and don't know what they're doing, or people who are just not paying attention what's behind their target.
Right.
So I think definitely limiting the brown is down like doe season for rifle probably helps that tremendously. Truthfully,
sure.
Because you don't have. Because I just remember like hunting, a few years back, just that the dude in the stand right next to me, like 15 yards. He just came during hunting season. That was it.
Right.
So clearly
Right.
he just is in there for the rifle season. So how skillful is he or whatever?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're limiting those amount of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in past years and even this year, you won't see anybody up to, like my dad said, up to rifle season. You won't see anybody. And then rifle season hits and it's like no one cares
Yeah, everyone's
about
in the woods.
anything.
When they're just
Yeah.
going.
No one cares if they see those tree stands and it's, oh, I'm trudging through the woods. And
Yeah, but it's the first 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
and then it backs right back off again.
Yeah.
Because number one, they get their opportunity to shoot a doe, and south of us, you can still shoot the doe, so they leave our woods to get down there to,
Yeah.
In what, Mass?
to hunt it. Yeah, no, just down, I didn't even think Rochester.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Southern New Hampshire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They get an
Unit M.
extra couple days.
Yep.
Yeah.
J2 gets an extra couple days than we do
Right.
in J1. But yeah, I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, it's probably both a conservation idea and a safety issue.
For me, it frustrates me because my standpoint is I put a ton of work in every single year, almost year round, getting my spots where I want them, staying out of certain spots, and then you see someone, just trudging through, not
Yeah.
knowing where they are or what they're doing, which, listen, it's great you're out in the woods. I want you to be out in the woods, but you gotta.
Have some common sense and some
Okay.
decency.
Yeah, I'm trying to, word this correctly because I'm not saying that people should not be walking out in the woods. That's not what I'm saying.
Don't
but-
be in my spot.
No, I think some of the issue though is that's how they've hunted. That's what
Yes.
that's what they know.
Yeah.
But I think as it's evolved, there is less and less of that. People are more focused on hunting alone and
Right. Like we were talking earlier, people are hunting by themselves now.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the tree stand game and the blind game
Yeah.
has really played a big part in people doing it on their own.
Do you think in the property where you guys hunt, you could do a deer walk safely? I don't.
Give me a drive.
A deer drive, sorry.
Like a deer walk?
Same thing.
I think you'd have to really think about how you were going to do it.
Yeah. So here's my opinion on deer drives is you can't drive a big piece of woods. Like where we hunt, there is so much woods. It's not like southern New Hampshire. You got these 10-acre parcels, and then you go across the road. There's another 10-acre parcel. It's not like that. We got thousands of acres behind where we hunt.
Yeah.
You cross a road, there's another 1,000 acres, and
It's a big area.
it's really hard to do a deer drive.
Well, what's the guy's name that we ran into this year with a bow there? That
Kyle.
Kyle. Yeah, and we never even knew he was in there.
No.
But I mean, he is down over the.
Yeah.
And we've hunted that a little bit, but still.
Yeah, and he's hunted that for him and his old
Yeah.
man have hunted that for years, and we
Yeah.
never knew he was there.
Right.
And I get people every once in a while on the trail camera just carrying a gun, walking out, but it's very seldom because the spots that I put stands now are in spots that people really should never even go.
Well, they're probably in spots that they wouldn't want to shoot a deer.
Yeah,
I mean, because I'll tell you, that deer you shot last year,
sucked.
getting it out of the woods was
Sucked.
probably the worst one we've had.
Yeah,
And we've had a few.
yeah.
That's why I try to get them closer to my house.
Well, when you go out and stumble across and tie your shoes and you look up and the thing's there, I mean,
Right?
You really just need to finish your little tree stand in the backyard and call it a day.
Yeah, boy, food plot would look real good there.
Yeah.
I think we're doing it this year.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, sure.
See, I gotta disagree. I think you guys are kind of wrong on the deer drives. I think they still happen even in the big parcels that we have up here.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna drop any family names around here, but like, you go to Ospey, Wolfboro, or that area, I think everyone knows kind of who I'm talking about. They're out there in a force,
Right.
driving
Yeah.
fucking everything.
Yeah.
Then you go down, what's the name of that road? Is it Doors Corner Road? Anyways, in Ospey, they have like 18 deer hanging up in
Yeah.
their front yard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're
do,
talking
yeah.
about,
And
too.
we've got a group, that's, probably only 3 or 4 miles from here, that he was my neighbor, and we're the same age, and we grew up hunting. I hunted with him some and what have you, and they still drive, and they do well.
Yeah.
That's what they know. They know the woods,
Yeah, I wasn't saying it was a bad thing.
No,
Don't get me wrong.
no.
I just I think that they still do it,
Yeah.
but
Well, I
it's
think-
because they know the woods and they know
Right.
how to drive it.
Yeah, I think it still happens. I just in parcels. I don't even call it a parcel because the woods are so big where we hunt. I just don't see you.
I get what you're saying. I just
Because here's the thing with the deer drive is if you don't get one on that deer drive, you just scattered those deer everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah.
The way that we hunt now is more strategized. Like, why are these deer doing this? When are these deer doing this?
The
And
crazy thing though, it changes like right at the beginning of season.
it
Yeah.
also changes every year because we've had spots where the deer will. It's like every day you're seeing these deer,
Yeah.
and then the next year you won't see anything in that spot.
But year to year, so like your season, let's just talk about this season. This season, you can have your camera set up, and by the time that like August, September hits, they're already starting to change their course of action.
Right.
So now you're like, okay, well now I've been looking at you all summer grow, and now you're fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
shit, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's the hard part about it is where did they go? That's why this year for us ended up being, I mean, you did well shooting your deer, and I, had my opportunity. What more can you ask for? But,
Which we'll get into.
yeah, we really learned some things that I think are gonna be beneficial to us next
Yeah,
year. And
'cause-
that's the beautiful thing about hunting is if you take, they're giving you clues all the time, it's whether you understand it.
Yeah, because this year myself especially, was way more mobile. I didn't just hunt the same 3
Right.
tree stands. I had, I think it was like 7 or 8 out, and then 1 to move around.
Yeah.
And I was hunting on one end of the piece, to the other in the middle, and I wouldn't see anything in the middle, so I'd go over here and.
But see, that's a big thing for like us average Joe guys. We have maybe 1 tree stand,
One tree
possibly
stand.
2. And then if we do want to be mobile, we're stalking, we're walking.
Right.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not just sit, walk, try to find something.
Right.
Which isn't a bad way to hunt.
No, not at
I
all.
love hunting like that. A
Yeah.
still hunt, and then, you walk for a little bit. I mean, from the point where we typically go into the field and then down to the end of the field, it took me an hour and a half to hunt my way into that. And then I jumped one, and I think it was a good one, but I never saw it.
Right.
But I mean, it took me forever. I like hunting like that,
Right.
And then even to stop and sit for an hour, so that's good hunting.
And it's a lot easier to do all day that way.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah, you can kill some time.
Yeah, and like he said, you walk, half a mile in an hour and a half, and then sit for a
For
little
an
bit,
hour.
and then
Right.
you walk.
Yeah.
So it can kill a whole day, but you can see a lot of deer that way too.
But you can also see what's going on.
Right. Right. Find scrapes.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you've
You come
found
across-
scrape lines and
Yeah.
I do want to point out that your magic field is a bunch of horse shit.
I was waiting
It's
for
only
it.
magic for certain people.
I know, it's fucking dumb.
You gotta do the ritual, man. Whatever.
Apparently.
We went out there twice, right?
It might have been 3 times.
And we didn't see a thing.
Damn thing. Nothing.
Same thing with Brian. Actually, no.
I went once and it was nothing.
I take
Really?
that back.
Yeah.
Me and Brian went once, right?
Yep.
And we get to a spot where we're gonna sit on the edge of this field, and we get we get into the the hemlocks that we were going to sit in, and I look up, and there's a 4-point buck. I'm not even kidding, like 5-10 yards in front of me. I swear to God.
In the field?
No, in the
in the woods?
In the woods. So we get it. We're walking down the field. We pull off to go sit in the hemlock, and I look up, and that thing is broadside. I'm not even kidding. From me to Brandon, 5-10 yards.
Throw a knife.
And I had the gun. He had his bow, and it just all happened so fast, and he walked off. He didn't even run. He just walked off.
And you just never got a shot?
Nope. It was the weirdest thing.
Did you see it?
He's all upset.
He's like, I can't speak.
Brian is over in the corner with no mic. That's why you can't hear him. Has put in some time. Not last year, but the years prior. He hunted that field. Not a lot, but he hunted quite a bit.
He hunted the swamp.
But he hunted the swamp, and you saw some decent activity not only on your camera, but you saw some does coming and piling through there too. You can't hear him talk because he's
not talking.
Mike, but
You want Mike?
he almost had some opportunities as well. But we're gonna be putting people in spots where they can get their first deer. That like I've said the whole time we're doing this podcast, that's the goal, is to get people their first deer. Kind of talking about people's first deer, but passing up deer. You passed one this year.
Yeah.
How is this the first year that you've passed up a deer with antlers?
Yes. Yeah. First, I've passed up does before, but yeah, I did. I had a spike horn walk in front of me about 40 yards, and I just watched him go because I wanted to shoot antlers.
Which isn't a bad thing, and I think that everyone has their own goals, and you were content with not shooting a deer.
Yeah.
That you wanted to shoot one that you wanted to shoot. Which,
right.
I mean, that's also like a lot of, even in hunter's ed, you learn that's like the evolution of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You go from just wanting a deer to just wanting to be out in the woods, and then you want the deer you want.
Right.
Like, if it doesn't meet that, you're okay with it.
Right. And I think a lot of the reason people just go and shoot anything is like people on Facebook. You post, a 16-year-old kid shoots his first deer, puts it on Facebook, and it's a spike, and everyone's like, well, why would you shoot that? Let it grow, and this is why we never have big deer. It's not about shooting the biggest deer. It's what your goals are.
Right.
And why you're in the woods. We as hunters need people in the woods. And I think that people need to lay off people. If you want to shoot the biggest buck in the world, fine.
Yeah, that's good for you. That's your goal.
Just because he wants to go out and just shoot a deer and enjoy shooting a deer doesn't mean.
So here's the flip side of that, right? I have a buddy, he lives in Missouri. And I posted a photo of a deer that was on my camera a few years back. And it was pretty big. It was a pretty nice sized deer for here. All I know, right?
Right.
And he was telling me, he goes, dude, for that deer, I would pass out for the next 2 years. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, it's just like that's how the climate here is. The climate here is like, let them grow, let them get freaking huge racks and whatnot, and then get them then. And I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. And so I think we had a conversation years ago about this. And it's just the climate of the area where here no one lets the deers grow to get to that point.
Well,
so that's why you have to get them when you can.
The difference is there's more deer in those areas. They hunt different than we do. They hunt food plots. And, and they I think Missouri's a bait state.
Yep. And I think the other big thing down there is we can shoot a button buck or a 4-pointer and have it be over 100 pounds kind of easy.
Yeah.
While down there, it might not clear 80.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Because
smaller deer.
Yeah, you could have an 8-point buck down there and be 120 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Whereas a 6-point up here was 180.
it's just like Texas. Texas has these deer that grow 200 plus inches, but the bodies are tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they can let them grow because there's so many deer, and they basically hunt food plots,
Right.
feeders.
Well, a lot of those states have farmland.
Right.
That
That's
too.
why Iowa, Illinois, even Minnesota. I mean, the food plots you see on the TV shows, 40, 50 deer, and you've got deer that are giants, and they're like, that thing's tiny. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, are you kidding me? And that's everywhere. I mean,
Right.
Whereas up here, like if we saw that rack, we'd be like, that's a trophy for
you'd
us.
shit your pants
Right.
and barely be able to shoot the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when you go to drag it out, and you're like, this thing's fucking light, like because we're just. I think it has to do a lot with climate and like where we are. So like deer need to get bigger up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong. Or
Right,
doing
yeah.
it
No,
wrong.
I mean, it's just the area.
It's different areas, and even southern New Hampshire, it's totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just different hunting in southern New Hampshire than.
Well, it's different hunting from where we are than if you went up north.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean, they're fewer.
Possible property.
You know.
Well, we're gonna get to that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I go for either a 4-day or a week up north for a hunt, which I love doing. I think it's fun as shit.
Right.
But that's where you're like sitting stalks.
Yeah.
Because you need to take your time. You need to go walk in the middle of the woods. Hopefully, you don't get lost.
Right.
Because it's fucking vast up there.
Yeah.
But
And
that's the beauty of it.
That's awesome to me.
Because like you just pull off on a snowmobile or a 4-wheeler trail, and you just walk, and then you walk off the trail, and you end up in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
Like just the experience of that. Like to me, like that experience, I don't care about getting a deer. It's just enjoying the experience. I mean, the deer is definitely like the goal.
Right.
Like don't miss your
You
shot.
just want to get out there and make sure you get back.
Exactly.
Right. So like our camp or my buddy's camp is in West Stewartstown. Then we drive 40 more minutes north into Pittsburgh or
Right.
was it? I think it's actually called the Glen at that point because you go past Pittsburgh. Anyways, and there's nothing. You see one cell phone tower, and then that's gone, and then you have the one route that goes into Canada
Right.
and woods. That's it.
That's sick.
It is awesome.
Yeah. That's what Wayne. That's what Wayne
yeah.
Robinson has.
Yeah.
And he's invited us up. Invited me up. I told him, give me a call. We'll go up for a few days. He said, great, sounds good. And that was this year. It ended up that he started up there, got called back for work, went out that weekend, shot his deer. That was it. So,
Yeah, he shoots some good ones too.
oh, he shot. Yeah, I know he shot a real big one
Yeah,
a few years back.
He gets some good turkeys too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big hunter as well.
Yeah.
I think, like you were saying, Chris, going out in the big woods and hiking and basically getting lost. It's the experience in all that, learning just the woods in general,
Right.
and why certain things are the way they are.
Right. I mean, that's a great teacher. Doing that's a great teacher.
Yes.
Even if, like you said, even if you don't see a deer, if you just go out there, spend a day in the woods,
Yes.
and you might
That's-
get lost, but
That's courageous.
Right.
I'll tell you, it really is a test of, really getting out there and knowing I don't know where I am.
right, yeah. I mean,
Literally. I mean, I'm sure you're using a compass.
the last time me and Rusty did it, we just fucking went into the woods. We're like, we think we came in this way. Let's go. Let's just go.
Is there service up there?
No, actually, I lied because the one cell phone tower you kind of get some.
Onyx.
Anyways, we walked into this like logging or 4-wheeling trail, then saw some fucking giant ass rubs that I sent to you. Went into the woods that way, ended up in a swamp. Then we just kind of like sat in this clearing where there's actually some trails coming into the swamp. We sat there and we just probably 3 hours,
Wow.
and we sat and waited. Didn't really see much. Then we're like, how the fuck did we get back to that goddamn trail?
Right.
So we took like an hour to get back up to the trail, and then we followed the logging trail further down where we found this nice field that we sat for another 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, the thing with big woods like that, it's you could see those trails coming through, but that could be a week by the time they get back
Right,
to
exactly.
those trails.
And that was like our last day, so it's not like we could go back the next day and try again. It was just something we were doing.
Yeah. So you missed a deer this year.
I did.
Doing better than us already.
So
Well, me and Brand, that is.
so I saw this deer. Was it about a week?
Yeah.
About a week prior to that, on this scrape line on the trail that he was talking about earlier, and I don't know if that deer smelled me or if it saw me move or what, but it was broadside of 30 yards. But the way that it was set up was I had a trail in front of me with a skinny piece of some woods, like a line, like a peninsula almost, and then a clearing on the other side of that. And instead of doing what he normally did, come down the trail, he went on the other side of the trees. So I had to kind of range him at that, and it was like 10 minutes into first light, and he just bounced, jumped a few yards, and just took off away from me walking. And a week later, he sat the other end of the scrape line, and this was in the afternoon,
It
right?
was in the afternoon, yeah. It was about 3:30, I would say. But I was facing, must have been north, and I heard something. I sat down. I was by a tree, sat down, and waiting for him to come to me.
How long were you sitting for?
45 minutes, maybe.
Oh.
It was a while.
Yeah, for you. That's a long time for him.
I heard something behind me, and I looked around the tree, and it was directly behind me, coming up the trail, and I'm like, I think it was a 6-pointer, and I'm like, boy, should I shoot or should I wait? Because it was still, at what point am I going to let one walk by? At what size? Well, I said, geez, he's got a decent rack, so I'm going to give it a try. I had to wind myself around that tree, and I couldn't get the, I couldn't get it back, the stock of the gun back into my shoulder. So I had it sort of in my bicep and leaned my head over, and I had what I thought I had him at the time was in the scope. And I pulled the trigger, and he turned around, bloop, bloop, off he went. He was a big deer. I bet he was, he had to be 160, 170.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he was a good deer.
Yeah.
But
He wasn't very tall time, but his antlers he was a wide.
He was.
It came out by, beyond his ears and then up, but like I said, not very big time, but he was a brute of a deer.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. To see him from the backside leaving,
Yeah.
he was big all the way through.
Yeah, and I think next year he's going to be a monster.
Yeah.
And then the one, that we wanted to get is, I think I posted on the page of this deer. I got on trail camera January 31st, still with antlers on, and he is just huge.
Is that the one with the video?
Yes,
Yeah,
just hanging out with a bunch of does, which was really weird. But we had him working my mock scrape,
Yeah.
and I don't think it was a mock scrape at the time. I think it was just a scrape that we were hunting at, and then I turned into a mock scrape, and they never came back. We had this deer just walk through there, and it just massive.
Yeah.
Massive deer.
Big, and he's a big deer too.
Yeah.
He's got it all.
Huge.
Yeah.
That'll be the hit lister for next year.
So is that your goal for this year coming up?
Him?
Yeah.
Him or his brother or his cousin.
Anyone.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's nice to say that, but boy, it's just so hard. You've got to put so much time and effort into it, and they've got to, whatever routes they're taking, and you got to just try to put it all together, figure it out, and hope for the best.
Yeah, and I think when you hunt deer like that, smaller ones, and I don't want to say easy, but I'm just going to say that because it's easy to say. The smaller ones come a little easier because you're hunting those monsters that you're not going to see very often, which makes the smaller ones easier to see, if that makes
Seems
sense.
to be, it does make sense, yeah, absolutely.
And I think, like you said earlier, the way that what we learned this year and when we apply it to next year
Right.
is really going to help us see a lot more deer.
I think we're gonna have multiple opportunities, full well knowing that you spend 2 or 3 days in a spot,
Right.
they figure you out, they go to where they're going next. And if we can figure, which we did this year, figured out where they went, got out in front of them there, and didn't have the opportunity to shoot, but saw them. I mean, we were still seeing, because when you hunt, a lot, we hunt a lot, put a lot of time in the woods, you'll see quite a few the first 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, there's nothing there.
They change it.
It's
Right.
pressure, they change it.
Yeah, they're not dumb.
Right, so then we got out in front of them over on the other side, and where they went, it's beautiful over there. And it's the first time we've been over there again for quite a few years, and holy mackerel, there they are.
It was almost every day we were
Yeah.
seeing them.
Yeah, for 3-4 days.
Yep.
Yep.
And then after that, nothing.
Yeah, so they, they feel that pressure and move.
Because it's not like you could be in there, they don't know you're there. You watch them, they walk off, but they do know you're there. Like they know, like they'll smell where you walked in, and if you do that multiple times,
Yeah.
oh, why are they walking through here multiple times? It's not, just a one and done, and then they're out. They're moving on to where they were before.
Right.
Because they're not gonna just
Try a new spot.
most of the time they're not just gonna leave to a new spot. They're gonna
Go back to what they know.
Yeah, most deer will make a loop of some sort. I say loop, but it could be anything. But they have spots that they like to go to,
Right.
and it's a matter of working those spots effectively, keeping your scent out, and just not burning spots out, and putting your stands or blinds in spots that those bucks are going to be in. Because there's two different ways to hunt. There's deer hunting and then there's buck hunting, and they're totally different. And we've learned this even in out back is those bucks don't go where those does go. They don't. They're in the nastiest crap you could ever imagine, the thickest crap you could imagine, and that's just they know that it's safe in there.
Yeah, 90% of the time, when the rut comes, all bets are off.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't matter. You could see one anywhere.
Right.
Right.
And multiple. You could see multiple bucks on one doe, and all bets are off at that point.
I hope this year I see 2 bucks going at it. That'd be fucking sweet.
That would be fun to watch.
That'd be a sweet watch.
That would be.
Yeah.
You guys ever see that video on like YouTube that game warden, the 2 bucks were going at it, they locked antlers and they were stuck that way?
Oh,
did.
I've seen that.
The fucking dude's surgical with a shotgun and just takes the antler right off.
Really?
Oh, dude's surgical with it.
No kidding.
He got like, I don't know, 15 yards within in it, had a shotgun, and just shot the antlers off one of them, and they both broke apart, ran off.
No kidding.
It's a cool video. Just go look it up.
Do you have like a memorable time in the woods where you just saw something, crazy that you don't see every day that you just remember?
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, one of my hunting stories was they were driving to us, and we were actually on the railroad tracks and waiting for him to come through, and I saw a bear that was probably 200 yards down, and I had a rifle, and I'm like, oh man, should I shoot? So I took a shot. Bloop, he goes across the tracks. One of the guys comes out, and I said, well, listen, I've got to go see if I hit it. So I go down, no idea, did the best we could. So we're walking back to where I was, and a 10-pointer came out and stood broadside right where I was standing.
No kidding.
And I started, my uncle said, all I could hear was fuck. fuck. I'm like, holy mackerel. I mean, you know, it's one of those ones you dream of, walking right out in front of you.
Yep.
I had to go shoot at a stupid bear, walk down there, get out of position. So, yes, stupid stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
But,
So I've told this story of when I shot this deer. I want you to tell the story.
which deer?
This my biggest one.
Oh, that biggest one.
Yeah, because I think you have a little bit of a different
Perspective.
perspective on this.
A different way to tell it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
The truth.
The true version is...
You shot it.
I didn't want to say that, but no. We went down and we were sitting on the stone wall. I mean, basically right out in the open, you know.
We were, too.
We were, right out in the open. But the only beautiful thing of it was about 110 yards away, you know, right in the middle of the field, had a little bit of a hump. So it did give us some cover that way from a deer coming the other way.
Right.
And that's the buck that came out and was making the scrape, horns up in, up in the trees, and Brand said, holy shit, there's a huge buck down there. And I didn't see it at the time. I'm looking, I said, holy shit, shoot it.
Shoot him, right?
And he had, he'd been hunting with a bow.
Yep.
So you're looking at what? Typically, 40, 50 yards at that time was all you would want to shoot max.
Yeah, max, yeah.
Then. And
Still.
it was 110 yards, we figured. And he said, can I shoot him? And I said,
With his rifle, right?
with his rifle, yeah. He had the 270, and I said, well, yeah, go ahead and shoot him.
I mean, I think it reaches.
Yeah.
It was, I was so like tunnel vision buck fever, I didn't even know what I was saying. Because that was the biggest deer I'd ever seen in the woods, ever.
It's amazing. So anyway, it was boom, boom. And, the deer goes into the woods, and we're like, he said, oh, son of a bitch. And, I thought I made a good shot, but, at that point, you just don't know.
Right.
You're hoping you made a good shot. So we got over there and went in the woods and, couldn't find no blood, couldn't find anything. And
Nothing.
So I don't know how much you know Bram, but he can get down pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it went into complete depression mode.
It was so bad. I'm never hunting again. This is bullshit.
Yeah, it was brutal. So I saw the deer laying there, and he was still alive, but I see him laying there, and I walked back to him. I said, holy mackerel, Brand, congratulations, give me a hug, and
Yep.
he goes, you better not be fucking with me. So I said, he's right over there. Yeah, you did have to finish him off.
Yes. It was weird because that deer was not 20 yards from where we were searching for blood.
No,
Just watching us,
Yeah.
search for the blood. I don't know if... And it wasn't a spine shot because I hit that deer right in the lungs.
right,
It just must have taken so much out of him that,
right.
he was able to just stay living. And I did have to put another one in it. But yeah, I got down pretty quick.
Oh.
It was rough.
Imagine if you had our luck. Probably think about hanging it up.
But once we had that deer and we got him out into the field,
Yeah.
then it was like, oh my God, how are we getting this thing out of here?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it was a long haul. Did you come
Brian,
out, Brian?
yep. Brian and
Brian?
Ryan, Bill,
Yeah.
You
Right.
had 4 of you guys bringing us in?
Five.
5?
5 of us.
We just kept taking turns.
Holy smokes.
It's about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, I'd say 3/4 from the bottom of the field.
Yes.
Yep.
And, I'm not trying to brag, I'm not, but 213 pounds dragging that thing through the woods is
Yeah.
not fun. It is once you get it in the truck.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
But it was definitely because
And you had all your gear too.
yeah, I had my
Right.
I think I had my bow with me and my gun.
Yeah.
Just in case a doe had walked out. But yeah, that was the first buck I ever shot, like ever killed. Because I've wounded before that. I've wounded some bucks. I'm not gonna lie, Like I've said before, I'm not good with a gun. Even this year, the one that I shot, I got shot bad. I took it. when we found it, the guts were right out of that deer, just hanging out. I don't know what it is, because when I'm sighting it in, I'm good. It's when I get that buck fever.
I feel like you get the
But it's weird. Like I can shoot a.
Oh shit!
And it probably is that, but it's weird because with a bow, I'm cool as a cucumber. In the 2 that I shot this year were both in the heart.
But the thing is, how often are you shooting that bow?
Oh yeah, I shoot it every day.
Yeah. How often are you shooting your gun?
Yeah.
Once a year.
Before the season to make sure it's still in the.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. See, that's yep.
Yeah,
And then we talked about this last week.
we did.
We talked about like sighting in the gun and getting some range time.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Just like with the bow, like you can have all the range time in the world, but once you got the season, if this is all I did what we shot today before this podcast, I'm gonna be doing the swivel weight,
Shooting deer in the ass.
skipping it off the rocks on the ground.
I'm just like, as long as they don't come in at 30 yards, I'll be happy.
What I think, the amount that we're gonna shoot this year, because you guys have goals this year. You guys want to both get one. I think with a bow as well. The amount of shooting that we're gonna do is really gonna help your guys'
Right.
game in the end. And even you plan on shooting more with the bow.
Absolutely.
And you'd like to get one with a bow.
Yeah.
It's just such a different experience shooting one with a bow than it is a gun. Because
Right.
even that story, that's 100 yards away.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a big buck, but imagine seeing that thing at 20 yards and shooting it with a bow.
Right.
The primal instinct of that is just it's insane.
Right.
And I think I wanted to this year, but I think it's going to be probably next year is the recurve side of it is what I want to try.
Oh, really?
To make that next step, because like I said, I shoot so much that I want to take that next step.
I think that's all Mike Stevens hunts with.
Is it really?
Yeah.
He's a savage too. That guy's just a straight sportsman.
Yeah.
Trapping, everything. He's the taxidermist that me and him use. He's done all my stuff. I think he's done all your stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I do want to get into the story of that crazy buck that you shot. I posted it as a picture on our last podcast because we had kind of talked about it.
Yep.
The one with the weird.
It's
antlers.
almost like a double drop time. It's just the weirdest rack I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Walking in, take a piss, and then, hey, look.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Too.
Exactly.
But that was a weird one because, I walked up over the hill, the steep hill, to get up on top to figure out, okay, here's where I'm going, and the thing was off to my right, and he started, and I knew.
And that's not even like that hill is like 200, 300 yards from your house.
Yeah. And that deer started, and I'm like, oh boy, I knew it was a big buck. And I tried 2 or 3 times to get the gun on him, and I couldn't. And so I saw an opening, and beyond the opening was woods. He was gone. And it's funny how fast the scenarios play out in your head when you've got one going like that. And I said, I've got one more chance here. I put it in the opening, and I said, as soon as I see Brown, and as soon as I saw him, I shot, and then I didn't see anything.
Right.
I figured that he's going to keep going because it was over 100-yard shot with him, not full bore, but he was going, and
This is during the rut?
yeah, and I said, oh man, I to be honest with you, I didn't think I got him. So I said, well shoot, I got to go out there and check, obviously.
Did you bring a coffee with you?
No. But I got out there and he was there. I'm like, you
Just
gotta be
dropped him.
kidding me. It dropped him right there.
Right.
I'm like, wow, unbelievable. That's why I love that gun.
And
That's fair.
And that buck, like I said, guy on Facebook, because when I posted it to the New Hampshire deer hunting page, had commented on
Right.
it, and he had pictures from 6-7 years ago,
Right.
and showed me each picture, And
That's awesome.
he said that back in 5 years ago,
Right.
the bases of this deer were like beer cans,
Oh.
and they're still pretty freaking
Oh, they
big.
are. They
But you
really
could
are.
tell that this deer was definitely on the decline.
Yeah.
I would say 10 years.
I think who the heck told me just by looking?
I think it was Mike, wasn't it,
We
Mike?
took the jaws off, the jar off, and
'Cause he had no
said, yeah, he said that they thought that it was somewhere around 9.
Yeah.
So 9, 10.
Yeah.
And that's pretty old.
Right.
For a whitetail, that's pretty old. Not only making it through hunters, but you're talking harsh winters. You're
Yeah.
talking coyotes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
But you could tell at the end of the day that the thing's hoofs were huge. I mean, they were just mammoth. I mean, everything about him would have said that this deer here should be in his prime, 200 and something pounds.
Right.
He weighed, what was that?
170 something.
178
Yeah.
or something like that. But you could just see he had run it off. And
Yeah, and he was
old.
he was
Yeah.
old and worn down from the rut.
Yeah.
I think because those pictures that guy had was over 2 miles away.
Right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
He probably got kicked out.
I'm sure. But that's how crazy these whitetails are. Is you could have a guy that's got the picture 2, 3, 4 miles away, and then he shoots him,
In his backyard.
Right.
right. And
Still
they
in the
just
drill.
travel that far. It's crazy. But yeah, that was a good one. We
Yeah.
we dragged that one out.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was the first time I met you.
It might have been.
Yeah, I think so.
Actually, I think it was because
Yeah.
that was early on.
Was I even dating Sid
I
then?
don't
Yeah.
think so.
Oh, it wasn't?
I don't think
don't
so.
know.
I can't remember.
And look at you
And
now.
look at you now.
So before we end this podcast, I want to touch on the evolution of gear, and I know we kind of touched on this a little bit in the beginning, but how different is it gear wise, and why you hunt the way you do now to where you were before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Well, I think way back then, one of the biggest changes in gear is what you wear.
Yeah.
I mean,
'Cause
holy mackerel.
Like we talked
Yeah.
about, it was Johnson plaid coats and jeans.
Yeah.
And I mean, like Uncle Sonny, he still wears that
Oh, yeah.
to the
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Smoking cigarettes, and
Right.
that's how it was back then. And now it's, all these crazy camo patterns and,
Yeah.
which we.
Well, I think even more so than that is the layering that goes on to allow you to hunt
Yeah,
when
very
it's
good point.
extremely cold. Because I can remember years and years ago, we were the young guys, we were 16, 17 years old, me and Bruce.
Mhm.
And the other guys were the next generation up, and they had to be in their 40s. Well, on a cold morning, who do you think got to sit?
Yeah.
I mean, we were the sitters, and oh my God. I mean, we would get so cold. But
Right.
the one thing that we were always taught was, no matter what happens, don't leave your sit. Stay there until we come out. Oh boy, I'm telling you, we were cold. So that's the biggest difference, I would say, is in the gear that allows us to hunt today, really, and be warm.
Yeah.
We had that one day, I don't even know if it was this year, but maybe last year, it was so cold, we were up at the field.
That was last year.
Yeah, I had
It was-
15 minutes before dark, which is the best time to hunt.
Right.
I said, I can't take it.
I had texted him. I'm like, I can't do it.
Oh,
It was windy, and probably with the wind chill, I'm pushing close to zero.
oh yeah, it was in December, because what's the season end? 9th or typically 8th, 9th,
Usually,
whatever,
yeah.
around there. I mean, it was late in the season, and it was cold.
There, I think it was 2 years ago. I went up to West Georgetown again, and nice fall day down here. There's like, I don't know, 6, 8 inches of snow up there,
Yeah.
Right.
and it was like -5 that fucking week. Oof. And we're sitting. We both got fucking hammered the night before and passed out around the wood stove. Woke up, went out, And we're sitting there. I made it maybe 2 hours.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck this. I'm going back to bed. It's 5 degrees out, and the wind's whipping through here, and the wood stove just is calling my name.
Sounds too
All
good.
about, all about those layers, man.
Yeah.
Throw on
I
those
mean,
layers.
I had thermals on under everything. I had a nice coat on. I mean, I broke out the old LeBonville Johnson coat too. It was just an extra layer of wool. But man, it was a brutal day.
Yeah. Sometimes you just can't get away from it. But that's about the only day that I can remember. Other than that,
Those days, they're not moving, right?
See, I've heard that they will because that keeps them warm.
Well, so
But at the same time, if they bed down in a good place, they'll stay
Yeah,
there.
I would say they're going to
So,
be burning energy if they're.
here's the thing: is if it's every deer is different. I'm just generalizing here. If it's really windy, most of the time they're not going to move, for 2 reasons. One, they can't see what's around them because everything's going haywire. So it's more of a instinct thing, and it's cold as hell. I have seen them in fields that it's windy out and they're out in the field, but you're talking like gusts of wind and it's cold. They're gonna bed either on a stone wall or behind a big tree where that wind's not hitting them. That most likely that's what they're gonna do. But like I said, every deer is different, so that they all act different. That's what I've noticed.
if it's real windy, it's hard to be out there anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got stuff that there's usually 1 or 2 days during the season where it's so windy that you're almost putting yourself in a bad spot by being out there.
Yeah.
So I don't hunt those days, but
Yeah.
a breeze or some wind doesn't bother me if you can try to take advantage of it. But
Yeah. Speaking of wind, I wanted to bring this up. The hunting app that you use, not Onyx, is it Huntwise?
yeah,
The one that gives you the wind direction
Yeah.
at your
Huntwise.
spot.
yes,
You liked that better than Onyx, right?
yeah.
Personally, you like
Personally,
it
I
Why
like it
is that?
better.
Is that just in more of the features of what it brings to you, or
Yeah, and also what it did, and I, didn't help me much, but I mean, it is a, one of those things that I did like was you could punch on the day, and it had a rating of what type of hunting day that it was.
Like
how
deer
good it's
movement.
gonna be.
Based on the wind, the temperature, whether a high pressure system had moved through.
It gives you thermals, I think, too.
Yeah, so there was like up to 4 bucks. And on some days, there'd only be 1 buck lit up, red.
okay,
Pretty poor hunting day.
yeah,
Condition-wise, any day's a good hunting day,
right,
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
So what
You know.
you could do is like your best spots, you would hunt those best spots on days that those thermals and it was lit up
Yeah.
high
you know,
rating.
with a high rating.
High rating, that's what
Those-
I tried to do.
Those are your best spots.
Yeah.
And then on days where it was like a 1, you would hunt, spots that you knew bucks would go through, but you don't want to. You could screw up those spots if
Or
you had
even
to.
if you wanted to do in-season scouting.
Right.
Right.
I really don't want to blow that spot up.
Mm-hmm.
If I get down, down below here and see if they're coming through or see what activities there is how I tried to do
Right.
it. But,
You never got to pass your porch.
unfortunately, I did this year. Many times.
The wind feature alone, I think, is a big one
Yeah.
because sometimes the wind will say, blowing out of the northwest. You get out to your spot and it's blowing the opposite direction, and now you're screwed.
Right.
That thing will give you the wind direction, and it was pretty right most of the time.
It really was, and I could run it through because you could do it from, say 6 in the morning, and then go up to noon, and then go up to 3.
Yeah.
And, as the day went up and went on, you could see the wind change by the arrows. And so what I did was I planned my hunts out 3 days in advance, because within 3 days it was pretty accurate.
Yeah,
And so I would go to Wolfboro because the wind was blowing good for that one, and what have you. But I saw 6 bear this year. At one point I had seen as many bears as I had deer, and they never, not a one of them, knew I was there.
wow.
So my scent control was good.
Bear tag.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm like, can I go over there and just shoot a bear?
One of them was
Like,
Beauty. She had two,
Cubs with her.
yeah, the ones that I like to shoot.
but if you beat a bear's nose, you know you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a question. Do you guys ever just take like a random day, like, and decide to do a random hunt? Like, because obviously you do a lot of prep work for your areas, but do you ever just like hear about an area and you're like, I'm gonna go hunt that. I'm gonna go give it a shot this weekend or this day.
Me personally, not really. And the only reason I say that is because I do so much hiking.
Yeah, you do all that prep work.
I do so much prep work that I don't. I know what. I know the areas.
Gotcha.
So I don't have to.
Yeah. And see, I do exactly that because, for 25 years I hunted in a different area.
Yep.
And then as Bram came up through, we hunted and he liked to hunt down our way. I do too. But I really know the woods in a different place.
Right.
Too. So a lot of times I'll say, well, I did that on that 4-pointer. I said, I'm going to go up to Tibbetts Hill. I was walking in to sit, hadn't quite gotten where I was going to go, and a 4-pointer stood up. He was in his bed.
Gotcha.
And I shot him right there.
Yeah, I was just curious because my dad's business partner, family friend, we were talking about hunting. He's like, I know there's a big buck up there. Either he let me know. He's like, you should go try it, or I'm gonna go try it. I'm like, yeah, I'll let you know. And then one day, I told you about this. I got up at like fucking 4 o'clock in the morning with a headlamp on.
Yeah.
Never been in there before. Trudging up this like 60-degree incline. At some points, you're like on all fours trying to get up this goddamn valley in the mountains. But I ended up like spotting a doe, and I had my headlamp on. It was technically legal shooting time, but the tree cover was so thick, nothing would break through. So I sat there with my bow, trying to find a way to keep my headlamp on, pointed at her, and with my bow drawn back, because every time I draw my bow back, I would lose picture of her. Like, this fucking sucks. So at one point, and she was a deer in the headlight, she wouldn't move.
Right.
So I like kept my headlamp on her, tried to hang it on a stick. I'm like, I give up. Fucking go away. I just started yelling at it.
That's funny.
Because I was getting pissed off. But then I ended up there, and I found a couple sheds up there, which was pretty cool.
Right, yeah.
Yep, and like so there was definitely there's definitely bucks up there and deer. Which
Sure.
I let him know that. He's like, yeah, see, you gotta trust the old timers.
Yeah. Does he hunt still? Or
Yep, he hunts all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if he got a deer this past year. I know he did the year before. He got another big one.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool because like he does hunt a lot, but he has. I think he was going through a dry spell too.
Right.
You definitely have to trust the old timers, and a big telltale sign is if you find an old wooden stand in the woods, probably should hunt near it because it's not just coincidence that they brought a bunch of wood out and
Put it up in a tree.
Yeah.
and put it in a tree. Back to the preparation end of it, me and him took a walk this year. I think it was early January, mid-January.
Yeah.
And we just decided to go out, and I had a feeling that these deer were probably in this area. I just wanted to see what was out there for sign, if not any sheds. And
Yep.
we knew that the deer would be in this area. It was just a matter of kind of where they were. And we just found a highway, and we followed that thing for a while.
Yeah.
And we ended up circling back, putting the camera there, and I've been getting pictures every single day of deer going through there. And I think it was about a week ago, I had 20 deer walk by that camera in one day.
Oh wow! Wow.
And it's one of those spots where it is in the middle. It's in the middle of the hunting area, so no one goes out there. And if you do, they're gonna know that you went out there.
Right.
It's definitely going to be a spot that it's going to be hard to get to.
Yeah.
But I think that
An all-day hunt type thing.
most likely.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of like that spot I went to because I spent 3 hours just trying to climb that fucking hill, and I mean, and I put some work into it. But as soon as you like kind of crest the top, it opened up, and then there's fucking game trails for
Yeah.
miles,
Right.
and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I could have spent days up there.
Right. Yeah, the thing too is, deer don't always take the easy route. They will
Right.
hike those mountains that you would never, or ridges or whatever that you would never think of going on, and they do it for a reason. One, there's a lot of feet, like we hunt a south-facing ridge with a bunch of white oaks.
Yep.
And the grade, I'm telling you, it is straight up and down. Like you wouldn't even think that a deer would be able to go up it.
Right.
And they're walking it like no one's business on the side and
Yep.
straight up. It's like, why would you ever go this way? And they just do. And that, I mean, I think that goes, you never know what a deer's going to do.
Right.
It's all obviously preparation and knowing what the deer do and why they do it, but there is some luck that goes into.
Oh, it's everything.
Deer.
Some fishing. and
You know what I
everything.
mean?
I think it's like 30% prep and work, and then the 70%
There
is
you
luck.
go, absolutely.
Right,
Yeah,
really,
and
though.
you know what it boils down to is, the preparation and then, the luck and then the time you put into it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
The time.
The
The
time.
time.
And
Yeah.
and the reason I say that is, and Brian can contest to this, and you, Chris, can say this as well, is me, I set my vacation, I set, how I do things year round around that.
Yeah, hunt time.
Around hunting time. That is literally what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
I tell Kat, I will take the kids, I will, I'll do everything in these months so that I can have the 4 months of hunting season.
Right.
And
Which you don't need, but
sure.
goes out day one. Hey, look what I got.
That's been the last couple of years.
Yes.
But I put so many hours in. My dad's put a lot of hours in. When Brian was putting some hours in, he started to see more deer.
Right. So there's obviously like an equation.
Oh, yeah,
Amount of time
yeah.
equals X amount of luck plus
Exactly.
preparation.
Exactly.
You're getting your outcome.
Yep.
And like the more time in there, the more luck you're gonna get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is about time, and it's hard with people with families, work, and
Yep.
other hobbies, or
Right.
anything like that. It's hard, but I live and breathe this stuff. It's literally the only hobby that I pretty much have. So I set my time up around that, and I see more deer.
Right,
yeah.
And it's not because I'm the best hunter out there, because I don't shoot the biggest deer ever. I'm not.
Yeah, you're just out there getting deer.
Yeah, which is my goal. Is I like to go out and I like to shoot deer. I love to do that.
Right.
He passed that spike this year, and when he texted me that the spike walked by, I'm like, think it's gonna come this way? I'll freaking smoke the thing.
Yeah.
I don't. Size doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I just love to shoot deer. I love the experience from preparation.
That adrenaline.
Yeah, the hard work that goes into even seeing these deer is what drives me to do it. And it's an addiction.
Yeah,
for
but
me.
then, the other side of that is that, I've shot deer in the beginning of the season, and basically,
kicked yourself in the ass for shooting them.
well, with a gun, because for me, it hasn't been about, getting out there and shooting with a bow, so as soon as I shoot one with a gun, that's it.
Well, that actually happened to you 2 years ago. You had shot.
I shot
Was it the 4-pointer, and then you
Yeah.
saw this monster with your bow?
Yeah.
And you could have just dropped the thing with a gun.
Absolutely. I saw that was not this past year, but the year before. I got out there in my blind before daylight, an hour before, and 15 minutes into daylight, 4-pointer walked up, and boom, shot him, I'm done. And then I started carrying the bow, and I saw 3 deer that were, they had antlers.
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted. So I said, next year I'm not going to do that, and you've got to make that commitment to say,
Right.
I'm not going to do
Yeah.
it, and it's going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a big deal. And I don't, that's fine.
And you don't feel the pressure of social media or friends or anything like that, because you're at a spot that you don't need any of that. So you're okay. You're content with, having your goal set at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I want to hunt, and that's cool. I mean, sure, but next year may be different.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd like to get to that.
No, you just want to kill things, man.
Pretty much. that is, right now that's what it is. I mean, I go for the biggest deer, but if a spike walks out, I'm shooting it.
Right.
I can't help
Yeah, but
myself.
you're almost doing two different seasons.
Yes.
You're doing the early season, and you're okay if a doe comes out and it's a good one, you want to shoot it and you get some meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all fine and good. But then as it gets a little bit later and you get toward the rut and you've got one or two deer with a bow,
Yeah. You can set your goals a little differently.
Yeah, then things change a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're into this quite a bit, so we'll wrap this up. You guys have anything to close out with?
Yeah, Norm, thanks for coming.
Sure.
Give us a little bit about Lavertue Builders. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've got myself and 3 other guys that work for me, and we're extremely busy. I don't know if you guys know the Garvin building, the train station up there.
Yep.
Yeah, we're renovating some of that, putting some windows, 60 windows.
60 windows?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in there, a bunch of doors, and it's got new ownership. And so we've got a lot going on.
How can people reach you if they want something done?
They can reach me at my cell phone number, 603-973-1606, or email norm.lavertue. Should I spell it?
No, they probably know.
They probably got it.
Yeah,
hopefully.
At roadrunner.com.
Cool.
So, thank you.
Well, I appreciate you sponsoring the podcast, because we definitely wouldn't be where we're at with the whole aspect of what we're doing without your help. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you coming on, and hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. This is White Oak Creek Outdoors, a podcast for everyone with a passion for the outdoors.